In any movie or story, there is what's called the inciting incident. This is the moment where the movie moves from giving background information to an incident or event that really launches the story. It hooks the reader and it brings the protagonist into the spotlight. Think about your favorite movie or a movie you've seen recently. Can you remember the inciting incident? One of my favorite movies is Good Will Hunting, and the inciting incident is this one. It's that Will, who works at a janitor at MIT, is actually brilliant, and he fills out the answer to this long math equation on a chalkboard, and the MIT professor catches him and realizes that he actually answered the problem correctly. Well, the inciting incident of Genesis is when God calls to Abram, whose name is later changed to Abraham, and tells him to go on a journey. This is the call that occurs in Genesis 12, 1 through 3. Your textbook refers to it as the launch of God's mission, or the beginning of God's answer to the human dilemma. You'll remember from the reading in Genesis 1 through 11 that God creates humans to rule the earth with him and to rule by serving and working the land of God's good creation. Instead of living out God's intention for right relationships and mutual blessing, however, they break relationship with God by eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, sending the message that instead of trusting what God said is good and evil or right and wrong, they're going to cross that line into acting like their own God and decide for themselves. And this act has cosmic consequences. It forces God to make them leave the garden. And then Genesis 3 through 11 tells the story of people consistently not working together with him for good in the world. And it spirals downward and downward. Where relationship conflict or tension was introduced between Adam and Eve, Cain then kills his brother Abel. God shows him grace and protects him from himself being killed. But then Cain's descendant, Lamech, boasts that while Cain only killed one person, he'll kill whoever he wants, anyone who harms him. He brags about accumulating wives. So God shows grace. He gives Adam and Eve another child, Seth, with the hopes that this line of descendants will help him with the mission to live in a way where they image forth God and live in a way that restores relationship with humans and God to what it was intended to be. But it doesn't happen. Genesis 6 says that people were so committed to evil and violence that God is forced to destroy them and start over again with one righteous family, that of Noah. Now, in Genesis 9, God makes a promise, a covenant with all of humanity. Notice it's not just with Israel, who still at this point doesn't even exist as a specific people yet. The covenant is with all of humanity. And this covenant or agreement that God makes with the human race is that he won't destroy it again in the way that he did in the flood. But despite this promise, humanity keeps not partnering with God. They keep doing the opposite of what he's intended. Noah, for himself, gets so drunk right after this that he passes out naked. And then one of his sons does something disrespectful to him in a tent that's a little bit unclear. And so this story keeps being told of God wanting people to join him on his mission to restore right relationship in the world, but they continually fail at this, often through hurting each other. So he tells Noah that humanity should spread abroad in the world. But humanity decides they don't want to do that. They want to stick together in one place and take bricks and make a tower there. So God helps them. He spreads them abroad himself. But in Genesis 12, 1 through 3, a new thing happens that thrusts a particular family onto the main stage of what will be the rest of the story. While Genesis 1 through 11 describe the creation of the entire world, Genesis 12 through 50 describes the calling and creation of a people from one family, the family of Abraham. So let's look closer at this inciting incident. Right after God forces humanity to spread out after the Tower of Babel fiasco, God calls to Abram. And it says, the Lord had said to Abram, go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all peoples on the earth will be blessed through you. Notice 3 things God promises Abram if he's willing to go. He will make him into a great nation, and he will bless him, and he says that he will make his name great. Remember what the Tower of Babel people wanted in Genesis 11? They wanted to make their name great. God says he will make Abram's name great if he follows his instructions. This idea goes back to the Garden of Eden. God had told Adam and Eve what to do and what not to do, to eat from any tree except the one of the knowledge of good and evil. When they took from that tree, the idea was they wanted to decide for themselves what was good and evil. They were trying to go about it their own way. Similarly, it's God's intention to bless people, to give them a good name, but they have to be obedient to live how he instructs them and not try to achieve this their own way. Notice a few things about the call to Abraham. First of all, the word bless appears in these 2 verses 5 times. Now, the ancient rabbis observed that the word curse is used 5 times in all of Genesis 1 through 11. And they contended that these 5 blessings of Abraham's call suggest that the 5-fold curses of Genesis 1 through 11 were now going to be reversed in this new era that began with Abram's call. Now, notice also what Abraham is called for. He's called and he will himself receive blessing, but the final phrase here is that the purpose of the call is this. The purpose is so that all peoples on earth will be blessed through him. Now, this is very much worth noting because there's often a lot of misunderstanding around the idea of God's chosen people. Sometimes that's understood as favoritism, as God choosing a people who are special or more special than other people. And that is really not what's happening here. He's chosen Abram if Abram is willing to follow him. But the entire purpose or reason for which Abram is called is to bring God's blessing to other people. Remember that if God is truly God of the entire earth, God of all peoples, then he must do right by all peoples, not just by one people, or he couldn't be righteous. You'll notice as you read Genesis and Exodus and so forth that the concept of Israel is not limited to only the ethnic people of Israel. People can join Israel in worshiping Yahweh, and they do. When the Israelites flee from Egypt in the Exodus, as we'll read when we come to it, some Egyptians fled with them. They joined the nation of Israel. We'll read other stories about other people. Rahab the Canaanite, for example, Ruth the Moabite, Uriah the Hittite, who believe in Yahweh and become a part of Israel. And we'll read of the opposite, of Israelites who don't act like Israelites and who are cut off from their people. Now, when you read Genesis 12 through 50, you'll notice that Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, and the other characters, they are a mixed bag. Sometimes they're faithful to God, and sometimes they're not. Sometimes they make good choices, and sometimes they make wrong or questionable ethical choices. God made these promises to Abraham that he'd make him into a great nation, which refers to having land to live on and descendants, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and that he would bless him. But Abraham and his family often make choices that would get in the way of this blessing. Now keep in mind as you read Genesis 12 and following that you're meant to read this as if you don't already know the ending. You're meant to read each story, each narrative as how on earth is God going to come through on this promise with all the ways these people seem to get in the way of and threaten this promise from actually being fulfilled. For example, God makes this promise to Abraham, and in verse 6, it says, Abram came to the land of Canaan, and we know where this is because of our geography study, right? So this is the area of Syria, Palestine. And the Lord appeared to Abram and said, to your offspring I will give this land. Well, then, only about 5 seconds later, in verse 10, we read, now there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down to Egypt to live there for a while because the famine was severe. Okay, pause. God just told Abram he would give him this land, and now there's a famine, and Abram's leaving the land. Okay, so we already have a problem, but it gets worse. As Abram is about to enter Egypt, he tells his wife Sarah, you're beautiful, and when the Egyptians see you, they're going to kill me and let you live. So he says, let's say that you're my sister, and then nobody will try to harm me. So this is exactly what happens. Pharaoh, this Egyptian leader, takes Sarah into his household to be his wife. Now, so the Lord sends, verse 17, the Lord inflicts serious diseases on Pharaoh and his household because of Abram's wife, Sarah. This is how the Lord gets the message through to Pharaoh that something is wrong here. He's doing something wrong, right? So Pharaoh calls Abram and is like, what did you do to me? Why did you tell me that she's your sister if she's actually your wife? So this is an even bigger problem, right? How can God bless Abram with progeny and create a great nation from him if he sends Sarah off to be another man's husband? And how can Abram live in a way that blesses other peoples and nations if he's right here lying to this Egyptian man, causing God to bring down diseases upon the Egyptians so that they'll realize they've done something wrong? And this is just the first thing that happens after God calls Abram. As you read, you're meant to notice all these ways that the promises God has made keep being threatened, and read on the edge of your seat. Will Pharaoh sleep with Sarah? Will they ever return to Canaan? In the next chapter, Abram separates from his nephew Lot. He lets Lot choose where they'll live. Will Lot take Canaan, the land promised to Abraham? Sarah is barren. She can't have children. Abram takes Hagar as a wife. Will Sarah ever have a child? Isaac, Abraham's son, he needs a wife. Where will he find her? Then he gets this wife, Rebecca. She is barren. So Isaac is praying for a child. Will they have a child? Then Isaac nearly gives his wife to King Abimelech of the Philistines. So we see this pattern happening here. They're threatening these promises that God made. Jacob, Isaac's son, makes his brother Esau mad. Esau marries these women from another tribe, the Hittites. Is Esau going to kill Jacob? Right? Chapter 27, we're wondering, will Jacob even survive? Jacob takes a bunch of wives, and he has 12 sons and a daughter, Dinah. And then Dinah is attacked by this other tribe, by Shechem. By Shechem, this man. Shechem is also the name of a tribe. And then her brothers, Simeon and Levi, go and nearly start a war that wipes out Jacob's whole family. So you're meant to notice these many failures of this family. In the Christian faith, sometimes these characters are treated as role models that we're meant to emulate. But the truth is, and you'll see this as you read, that they are a mixture of good and bad. They obey God and then they don't. Abram believes God and follows him where he leads, but then he lies about his wife and sends her off to marry another man. Twice. Jacob tricks and steals from his brother. He lies to his father-in-law. What we find from reading about their many failures is that, as your textbook puts it, these ancestors' story turned out to be more about God's faithfulness than their righteousness. So as you read Genesis 12 through 50, notice these two things. First, the ways that the ancestors threaten the fulfillment of God's promise and what God does to make good on his promises. And second, the ways that these characters are human, a mix of good and bad decisions, while God continues to make good on his promises in spite of their failings. And you have made it to the end, so you get an Easter egg. For 1 extra point this week, go to this week's Easter egg, which is a discussion board, and tell us what you think the inciting incident is in your favorite movie. And a second extra point if you actually post a photo or a meme of it.